Megan, it's that time. I hope you all have your coffee. All right, I would like to start the second half of our evening by first again thanking all of our featured poets for this evening, who all happen to be sitting at the same table right now. So, oh, Tammy, you moved. Thank you again for joining us for this evening, for being willing to think and discuss poetry as a political act. For me, when we started discussing this event at CALYX, we were still in the midst of National Women's History Month, and as a women's studies person, as that's being where my head is, I was fully immersed in that, and that is how I have looked at CALYX in my time here. So, as we were discussing what kind of theme, what do we want to be doing, I was thinking about the extent to which CALYX itself was such an intensely political act. Our continued existence, the fact that we are still in existence 39 years after our founding, says something to both the dedication and the necessity for having these feminist presses. And let me tell you, as I'm working on our 40th anniversary and discussing some events and so forth with other presses, there are a lot of these little feminist presses that didn't last for a variety of reasons. And so I wanted to just express again my thanks to everyone for being here, for enjoying the poetry, whether you were enjoying it as a political act or just because you love poetry. And I'm going to open up the open mic period by reading something from the most recent issue of CALYX that you can actually hold in your hand. Our current issue is due to be shipping from the printers in about a week, so it is bright purple. You cannot miss it. And so it will be turning up in your mailboxes if you're a subscriber in the next few weeks. And if you are not a subscriber, you can become one at our book table in the back. And if you do it tonight, I will get you in there in time to get the purple issue. But I wanted to read this poem from this issue, which was out last October, because for me it sort of encapsulates everything that this evening is about. And it's titled, Reading Little Women in the Red Maple in My Parents' Front Yard. Mothers of America, let your daughters climb trees. Let them risk the fall. Your girls, for whom gravity is only a theory, are resilient. They have not yet learned what is inevitable and what is not. Let them be bruised, bloodied, broken. You cannot keep them from it. We choose the means of our own breaking. Let them claim the freedom of being unseen, the ecstasy of perfect solitude, the stolen green hour. Let falling be your gift to them. Katie Landon, author from CALYX 28-1, yes. Volume 28, number 1. Sorry, we're thinking so far ahead, we're already in the 29s at the office, so I get a little confused. So, please do join us back at the book table, pick up copies from any of our readers, or I have a small selection of the CALYX books, and of course you can find us online. Now I'd like Tammy to come back up here, and she's going to magically call on the open mic people, and I think she's going to be our fierce timekeeper as well.
Yes.
So she'll be sitting there, and if you see her going like this, that's it, you're done.
I'm actually just going to sit from here and call you up so I don't have to amble up and down. But our first reader tonight is our cool video guy, C. Stephen Blue. Give him a warm hand.
Hi everyone. Yes, I came here to video tonight because I was invited by my friend Amy. So I want to thank CALYX for putting on this wonderful reading. All the readers were really great. And so in keeping with the theme of the event, I brought a political poem to read. I grew up in the 60s, and this has a 60s theme. Last seen signals. I fight for what is not left. I fight for what went long ago. The smiling faces, flowers, long hair, and bell-bottoms of you. Now only a faded view, left forgotten in the memories of new wars, new scores, new reasons to be afraid by the many, the masses, no longer aware how it could have been had we just not given in to the many-numbered royalties, the commercialism cash cow, the callous concern of corporate bottom lining, until we're all scared for our jobs, no longer able to see the possibility that was at our fingertips. If only we could have held on a little longer, persevered a little stronger, not been in such a drug-induced haze. Oh, the ways of the world, the wonder now gone, replaced by hunger, the mad plans of melancholy, mentioned in passing, the last seen signals of the 60s. Do you remember when peace, love, and brotherhood were the current topics of discourse? Do you remember when government regulation was strong enough that air pollution standards created cleaner air, and the big banks in Wall Street operated with public scrutiny? Do you remember when aerosol cans started disappearing from store shelves, replaced by pump sprays? Do you remember why? Do you remember truth in advertising? Do you remember the fairness doctrine, when opposing political views had equal airtime by law? Do you remember when telephone companies, public utilities, television, media, airlines, health insurance, and banks were not mega monopoly corporations, and monopolies were broken up by our government? Do you remember when the Supreme Court was fair and balanced, and politicians of opposing parties actually worked together? Do you remember when big money didn't buy up all of government? Do you remember when public education was important, reliable, affordable, and funded? Do you remember when teachers, firemen, and police officers were important jobs with public support for fair wages and benefits? Do you remember when the average American family could afford a house, a car, and a college education for their children? Do you remember make love, not war? The 60s was a paradigm shift, at least a brief moment of truth, a glimpse of the golden age, the future that could be if peace, love, and brotherhood really reigned in the world. In the 60s, we saw the evolution of the human spirit was possible. We saw that living in harmony with our fellow man and Mother Nature was doable. But when you look around now, it appears like we have forgotten all of that. I fight for what is not left. I fight for what went long ago. The smiling faces, flowers, long hair, and bell-bottoms of you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Dahlia S.
Good evening. I'm lucky enough to be a colleague of Hannah Baggett over at the OSU MFA program. I'm going to be reading two poems tonight, and both of them have to do with one of my poetic obsessions, which is memory. The first one has to do with communal memory, and the second one has to do with personal memory and the narrative that we tell. So this is all these bodies, all these vessels of blood. I am at a park. The merry-go-rounds whip pastel jumpers and ponytails into thick cream batters, and swings careen shyly with the breeze. A group of blonde children come up to me. They want to play. I am a child too, and one little boy with topaz blue eyes steps forward. a daisy in his hand with only one petal left for me. I reach for it, and a crowd gathers behind me, rows and rows, my parents, brother, children, my grandchildren, their children, all of my ancestors, all wearing my clothes with stars of David stitched to the sleeves, bags under their eyes, cracked lips, hands outstretched, holding tiny tattered journals, prescription bottles, blood samples, stacks of rubber-banded, yellowed photographs, suicide letters, passports, razor blades, and leather coin pouches full of clipped-out obituaries. Rows and rows and rows. They fill the playground, the parking lot. Someone's hand is on my shoulder. I whisper to the boy, "I can't play with you today," and he asks me why. I begin to cry. I want to play with him and the other children. I want to ride the merry-go-round and wear a pastel jumper. I want to have a honey blonde ponytail and empty hands. I don't want to be followed, reminded, weighted. The little boy doesn't understand and insists, "Take the flower, it's for you." And then I am no longer a child. I am me, angry, humiliated, falling. I am up again, crying, shouting, sputtering, and the little boy is not a little boy. He is a man, wanting, standing before me, chest out, legs spread, not understanding. "Take the flower, you bitch." And I am me, angry. I am pushing him away, tearing at the flower, a beast, a child, yelling at him, throwing myself at my people. Don't you see I can't leave them? Flailing, falling, I am a cluster of rubble on the ground, breathing in ashes. I am a billow of smoke, wailing, "No more, please no more, I am begging you. My hands, what is happening to my... Don't you look, don't you look, don't you look. Look at my hands, look at them, don't you see what you've done?" This is The Anatomy of Empty. It's in 4 parts. 1. What I remember. The lights. Clean, white, buzzing. Men with masks over their faces peering into me like a peephole. Not knowing where my mother was, knowing that hers was not one of the faces looking down at my small nude body. The waiting room, the family friend who sat with me while my mother pulled the nurse aside. The friend who told me that when she gave birth to her 3 children, she shat herself each time in the process. Before this, not wanting to go to the bathroom because it hurt. Sitting in the tub at home, my mother urging me to relax, to try to pee there. Thinking, 8-year-olds don't pee in the bathtub. My underwear on the tile floor, the blood. Then, watching TV in my parents' bedroom, legs dangling off the edge, a towel wrapped around my waist, knives in my bladder, my mother pacing up and down the hallway on the phone, her voice hushed and damp as steam. 2. What I suppose. The only doctors on call were male, or the women were out to lunch. My mother was in another room, or right outside the door. She found my underwear on the tile floor and saw the blood, or I said something on the drive home from school. "Mommy, it hurts," maybe, holding myself with both hands, or mothers know what's wrong before their children do. 3. What I was told. Impaled by a chair leg. No physical damage, no scarring or evidence that anything happened. 4. What's left? A hell of a story. My flinching. My pulling away. Thank you.
Kelsey B. Or check mark. Kelsey. Oh, thank you.
I'm just
just going to read two short poems. And this one, the Beatrice in this title, is not Dante's Beatrice, but Beatrice from Much Ado About Nothing. On why Beatrice eventually marries. She knows love is something that can kill her, that when the soldiers return to Messina, they'll sprawl through the orchards and hoard the cool shade, the orange globes, the tender peel and pulp. She knows Hero and Claudio will buzz towards each other in a magnetic trance, all their atoms excited at finding the mirror image double heart. So at first she is prepared to prove her resilience. She survived the first time, sharpened her tongue, and made her breast a shield. She thinks, now it will have no power over me, forgetting that sisterly love can kill too, forgetting she can be disarmed by Hero's absurd suffering. And this one is sort of the personal in the language of the political. It's called Running Mate. He was awkward at our first meeting in the deli, all grassroots beginnings. He listened and kept a polite distance, still developing the campaign. Selfishness is a virtue, he should have said when he recruited me. I still would have joined. It was nice to have a focus, a goal again. It was nice to have a warmer bed. Even sleeping with his arm always under my stiff neck, I didn't mind. Slowly, the platform cohered. He emphasized the values of patience with me, and spotless kitchens, and sex when I want it. Then he said he would abolish government, let his needs rule, no more checks and balances. He became a tall, fiery pillar, a tyrant, and for a while, he still had a devoted following. Thank you.
Yes.
So this poem I'm glad it kind of fits in this political thing, feeling that feminism vibe. Kind of reflects on how males in our society are taught to expect a certain type of comfort and salvation through romance, and when that comfort isn't offered through sex, it tends to translate itself into certain types of abuse. We see this a lot in our culture through things like friend zoning, the deserved dominance over women, perpetuated by patriarchy, of course. So, I can just find the page. This is called Saving Boys. I overhear the conversation. Red plastic cup in one hand, the remaining ounces of my dignity in the other. A lambda symbol brands the room and he leans over his brother's shoulder. She fixed it all, man. He looks at me. Addictive personality, that's what he called it. No more barbiturates, depressants, narcotics, hallucinogens, or stimulants. Most importantly, no more cocaine. No, he proudly found a new white possession to pour his trust fund in vain. White, supposedly pure, supposedly clean, cut down to the smallest particles. Supposedly engineered just for him, supposedly addictive. He made me feel expensive. No, by definition, expensive means costing a lot of money. A lot of money, not just a value, a currency. Fact. 39% of males believe it is alright to physically force sex under the condition that he spent a lot of money on her in sprees. Statistic. 12% of females agree. I gave my insights, my advice against vice. I thought intellectualism would suffice. He'd nod his head with coherent velocity and try to convince me, you're right, you're right. I started the conversation. I just can't fix it all, man. He fiended for affection. He accused me of forcing him back to junkie, back into the state of withdrawal. Why couldn't I just understand I was meant to fix him? With purity, cleanliness, cut myself down to the smallest particles, engineer myself for consumption, supposed addiction. Comparing me to needles filled with lethal love, self-deprecation, boiling me down to fixation, fixation, fixation.
Greek symbols soon melted around me, convoluted with Hebrew. He clung onto my guidance, my words like they were his own personal proverbs. Fingers rigorous, nail-pressed, firm grip around holy pages, I hear the same maddening standards fashion bars of cages. He was devout, crafted an altar for my pelvic bone after he would take his communion without consent or blessing. He loved this church he built so much he hung me on the same cross he'd clutch. Crucified with nails made of rufalin and whiskey sours, a red plastic cup in one hand, the remaining ounces of my dignity in the other. Count the times, no idea, but it must have been a compilation of hours upon hours. He fit a crown upon my head, designed with thorns of salvation he thought I could offer him. How quickly love and hate contort, shape shift, and trade fates. Half gods are worshipped in wine and flowers. Real gods require blood from a core. How easily we are blinded by faith. Serenity is secretly a crap word.
I tilt the pan to slide the sizzle. Hot cast iron meets soft butter. A furry, cheek-framing freedom that melts away presumptions. The mutton chops make me dissolve the fight between the hot expression of myself, too steamy to be boxed, check 1 or 2, and the soft, creamy woman they want me to be, but never was I yours to mold. I cut and paste glued hair, travels from the top of my ear to the curve of my chin. Accessories to the crime of coloring outside the lines of my smile, forgive me. Crafted purple to resist, to make no mistake, these have not grown. Make no mistake, I'm not like you. Thaw the rich, luscious cell expected for me, to liquefy and alter, to shift and unsettle. I've let my gender breathe for 3 days now. It's time to let my skin breathe the same way. I ache with and without them on my face. I pull the hair away each strand. It leaves a purple hue of stuck-on residue.
Amalia, did I say that right? Yeah. Yay!
To sin. Let's begin with the rhythms of my past. Ancient lovers reminded me, dear, this moment won't last. So with or without certain discipline, I've been contained just to the contents of my skull. Forever isn't quite long enough to be recorded in only thought. Never can't quite hold itself up without a bookmark. As seldomly as it's taught, so here I am reframed, adjusted to the 21st century's hazy lights, sitting on 2 stacked Qwo-Li dairy crates. I probably should have bought. We probably should have never found ourselves in such a mess. But then again, just on a whim, this moment could be bliss. I have like 2 others. If there is more than one intelligent species, forging identification, creating diseases, and forgetting ourselves in it all, somewhere in this universe there must be something that knows it all. Well then again, I guess that's the whole meaning. We'll live our lives looking for closure, wanting relief for the days to get better. So we learn to get what we need to make what we want with rapid development into caves, kingdoms, duplexes, and cardboard boxes. Over the years, as our population widens, our life rate is higher, well, so is our death rate, with so many people doing so many things. And you still wonder if there are more intelligent life forms, not knowing what's for dinner, with 2 full pantries and a fridge. I may be right by saying that we are all one of a kind, and yes, I think there are intelligent species, just maybe not here, right now. Okay, here's the last one. This is called standardized education. It's normal nowadays not to care about figuring out what more life is than a standardized joke. It all starts in pre-K, same guidelines and rules on any day. Up till 12th grade, everything seems to go the same way. There were smart kids, funny, dumb, and insane, but out of the double doors, if they were lucky enough to see, when there is a guidebook, different every year, even if you get straight A's, there's always the graduation gown, the smile and handshake. To bid you farewell, then off to the real world, an Ivy League college or maybe LA. For once, there may be no changing classrooms and mischarted grades, but in a lot of ways, it's still the same way, because now of teachers and lunchtime, we have bosses and break hours deducted from our pay. Thank you.
Our final reader is Tara. Tara?
Tara.
Oh, Tara.
Okay. A little bit taller than that. All right. Okay, so I wrote this poem after a conversation with my mom. We were watching a documentary about Cesar Chavez together, and in the movie there was talk about like some racial slurs, and my mom turned to me and she was like, "Have you ever been called a beaner? Have you ever been called a brown nigger?" I was like, "No." And she was like, "Really? I used to get called that all the time." And it was really shocking for me to hear that, because in my life and my experiences, it's been more microaggressions, and I think that's just due to like either the classist privilege that I have now, or hopefully progression in society. But I wrote this poem right after that conversation, and I kind of wrote it for my mom. It's called Ink. I am the color of black liquid spilled on a white page. They said my mother soiled my father, that's what I am. The product of a woman of color soiling the white parchment paper. Product of dead American land paper, the systematic ownership of my blood paper, the splinter of my mother's skin, my skin ripped at the seams, shreds of my body dispersing among brown and white. My mom's last name is Garcia. It is not Beaner. I'm slowly learning. They unconsensually sterilize Latina women in LA hospitals because America wants less of me. I'm slowly learning just how many people think I'm the cream of the crop for being a Mexican American in college. I'm slowly learning when brown spills on white in an act of love, of shameless expansion, they cringe, they crumple, they throw me away. I'm slowly learning the whiter the view, the more I feel like a stain. I'm slowly learning, however, the liquids copulate together, and I'm slowly learning that the greatest works of art in this world were once stains on a canvas in somebody's basement. I'm slowly learning that I am not a stain. I am becoming ink. My brown, filling the pens of feminist writers, my story stains the white narrative. Our stories blacken the blank. Write the words they're afraid of. My ideas are alive. My truth is loud, my dark is light, and they stripped us of our bark and burned us alive. The embers of my mother sparked. They bleached our history's pages, but we are here to write anew. I am here to write anew. Your bleach can't rid you of this stain.
greatly appreciate all the fine poets tonight, very impressive, and all the great featured talent earlier too, and thank you for your time.